Good morning, 8th Sunday of Ordinary Time, and we read the Gospel of Luke. He also told them this parable. Can the blind lead the blind? Will they not both fall into a pit? The student is not above the teacher, but everyone who is fully trained will be like their teacher. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, "Brother, let me take the speck out of your eye," when you yourself fail to see the plank in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. No good tree bears bad fruit, nor does a bad tree bear good fruit. Each tree is recognized by its own fruit. People do not pick figs from thorn bushes, or grapes from briars. A good man brings good things out of the good store up in his heart, and an evil man brings evil things out of the evil store up in his heart. For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. Why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye and not the plank in your own? In politics, it's very common to resort to the mud machine, a concept coined by the Italian writer Umberto Eco, the author of The Name of the Rose or Foucault's Pendulum, to describe the use of information to attack and discredit the political adversary. I identify their errors, their defects, their vices, and throw them in their faces as if they were mud. And this, on one side and on the other, no one is spared. I began this reflection by stating that there are many people who spend their time criticizing others and ignoring their own defects. I have thus fallen into the same defect that I am condemning. Honestly, it's very easy for all of us to identify the defects of others, especially those people we don't like or of whom we already have a certain prejudice. On the other hand, it's very difficult for us to recognize our own defects and mistakes. Human beings are tremendously prone to make judgments. That's inevitable. And our minds are not free of cognitive biases. I want to mention a particular bias when judging others, and that is the halo effect. The halo is a circle of diffuse light around a person, a glow, a brightness that accompanies him or her. Everything that person does or says, I judge through that halo. The halo effect occurs when your judgment of a particular characteristic of a thing or person affects your overall impression of it. We make a prejudgment from which we generalize the rest of someone's characteristics. Let me explain myself with two examples, one positive and another negative. If we like a person because he once did us a favor, we unconsciously tend to value positively everything he does or says. We find everything that comes out of him good. Or I may consider an attractive person as automatically kind, talented, and successful without even knowing him. On the contrary, if we don't like him, automatically everything he does, says, proposes will seem bad to us, and we will find arguments to go against him and criticize him. The halo effect makes it very easy for us to see the speck in someone else's eye, ignoring the plank in our own. For the same reason, removing the plank from one's own eye is difficult because it requires three special skills: to know ourselves, to accept ourselves, and to overcome ourselves. Skills already mentioned by St. Augustine in the 5th century. Knowing oneself isn't easy because it's very difficult for us to be objective about our own subjectivity. What is to know oneself? To be able to observe and name my mistakes and shortcomings, even if it hurts me to do so. As Aristotle said, knowing oneself is the beginning of all wisdom. What is self-acceptance? to come to terms with the idea that I'm not perfect, to embrace one's imperfection as part of the human condition. Now, to accept oneself is not to conform or resign oneself to one's imperfection, but if I don't accept myself, I cannot overcome myself. As Carl Jung once said, what you reject, what you refuse, subdues you. What you accept transforms you. If I don't recognize my defects, if I don't accept them, they will continue to dominate me. On the contrary, if I accept them, I will be able to transform them. What is self-improvement? To overcome is to transform a defect into a virtue. I am capable of bringing good out of bad. For example, I recognize the deep desire of the heart that hides behind my defects or daily sins. Thus, I am able to transform my pride by realizing that I am seeking to feel abundant. And then I seek true abundance. I transform my envy when I realize that what I am really looking for is to feel worthy. And I transform my gluttony when I realize that what my heart longs for is deep well-being. I transform my lust when I manage to connect with the desire for authentic communion that dwells in my heart. I transform my anger when I realize that what I desire is to enjoy justice. I realize that my greed responds to the desire to feel confident, and that behind my laziness hides the desire to enjoy a life full of peace. Seeing and denouncing the mistakes or defects of others is the easy thing to do. It's like to score a goal in a penalty kick without the goalkeeper. The difficult thing to do is to identify, accept, and transform one's own mistakes. I allow myself here to quote a phrase attributed to Lao Tse, an ancient Chinese philosopher of whose life we know almost nothing, and it's even debated whether he really existed. I quote Lao Tse not to lower Jesus Christ to the same level of the wise men who have existed, as if Jesus had been only a wise man. No, Jesus was more than a wise man. He was God-made man. But as the Second Vatican Council says, in other cultures and other religions, there are also truths called semina verbi, seeds of the word. In non-Christian traditions, there are true and good things, says the Lumen Gentium, precious religious and human elements, says the Gaudium Spes, seeds of contemplation, says Ad Gentes, elements of truth and grace, seeds of the word, glimmers of that truth which enlightens all men. One of these seeds or glimmers is the phrase attributed to Lao Tse, which goes as follows: He who knows others is intelligent, is wise, but he who knows himself is an enlightened person. To dominate others is strength. Mastery of oneself is true power. Therefore, as Jesus challenges us in today's gospel, rather than wasting time denouncing the defects of others, let's invest our lives, our short lives, in improving ourselves, to be a good tree that bears good fruit. And God bless you.